Hey, everybody. Welcome to Bear Insider, Ultimate Insider. I'm Mike Pawlawski. Today, we are talking big game. The Bears keep the axe for the 127th iteration of this game and a huge win for the Bears. Now, you got to be completely honest with you. After the first quarter, I was rolling my eyes like, oh, not in a big game, not like this. And coming off the Syracuse game last week where I felt like the Bears were flat in that game, to then come out and start off the way they did, my confidence was low. Let's put it that way. But then they put together the drive. Fernando gets that huge run where showed some wheels out there, and then came back and hit Tron Grizel on a back shoulder fade from a slot fade position with a great football, and Tron made a great catch. And all of a sudden, I started to believe it was a interesting game, and that obviously Troy Taylor, head coach of Stanford, was my college roommate. He's a good friend still to this day. We did not talk this week, but I did text him before the game. And then just knowing what he can do on offense, knowing what he does with offense and how he creates very well, and all the time that he's had to create offense over the course of the years, he's just really good at finding leverage points for defense and getting the extra gap and finding ways to beat you at what you do. And so I knew that Troy was going to bring in some wrinkles. He definitely did. Got the Bears defense on their heels early on. But then Bears were able to find a way to rally, to bring it back. And then in the second half, get the stop after the turnover. So Stanford scores. They kick it off the Bears. Bears are returning, and they fumble on the kickoff return. And right there, it felt like, man, this could be bad. This could go the opposite way for the Bears. But defense found a way to get the stop, and then after that, they didn't get a field goal block, but the holder actually muffed the field goal try, and he should have been able to handle it. He should have been able to catch that ball and put it down, but he did not handle it. And so the Bears, through great effort on that series, got the stop, got a field goal, and then kind of swung momentum in that game into Cal's favor. Now, that said, they still had to go out and score on a 98-yard scoring drive. But the other thing that happened there is the Bears were not getting the pass interference calls during the game early. And Nicholson, number 9 for Stanford, he'd held and got away with a couple of PIs. Well, they caught him dead to rights on that series, on the first play. And when Fernando Mendoza put the ball up to Isaiah Hunter on the go route, he ran into Isaiah Hunter. It was clearly pass interference and got the call. And so it was a good throw by Fernando. You always teach your quarterback to keep him in the field of play. The only ball that's never been caught in the history of football is the overthrow, which includes the out of bounds, because that's an overthrow too. And so he didn't overthrow it. He underthrew it just a little bit, but he allowed his guy to come back and make a play, which, by the way, if you watch my podcast from last week, is why I was so kind of going off on Tobias Merriweather. If you don't come back and fight for that ball, then I can't trust you as a quarterback. I can't throw you the go ball. And so it's a great job by Isaiah to come back and fight for that ball, draw the pass interference, start that drive off right. And then, of course, get it the big fourth down conversion. Jack Andrews showing up and Fernando hanging in there to complete that pass on the mesh route. Jack Andrews sitting down where he's supposed to in space and then finding it, just being there for his quarterback and available. Huge, huge play for both of them. But to continue that drive on fourth down. And then, of course, Jonathan Brady, what a baller to make the 2 touchdown catches. But that last touchdown catch is one of the more difficult catches that I've seen him make all year long. And he's got super strong hands. We've seen him make some great catches. But this one in particular, because he's getting jostled at the top of his route, he's being held, and he has to reach back across his body because of body position to make that catch. It was phenomenal. And Fernando's throw on that, by the way, also phenomenal. You can't expect to be accurate to a guy who's off timing, who's getting manhandled, and put a perfect ball out there for him. And yet Fernando threw a fantastic football for that specific throw over the DB into Brady's hands. Really impressive combination there. Would have got the pass interference if Brady had not caught that for the touchdown. So great execution. Really impressive to see them drive the ball 98 yards to win that game. huge effort by the Bears. And so I applaud them. They did have the mismatch at corner, and it was there all game long. Bears did not take advantage of it as much as I thought they could have, but they took advantage of it when it counted on that last drive. So nice to see them get the win and still have all those coachable moments. And speak of coachable moments, we talked to Coach Wilcox earlier. We'll take a look at that right now. Then we'll talk SMU and Thanksgiving when we come out. Joining me now, head coach Justin Wilcox. And, Coach, coming off a big game victory, feels so much better coming into this week, I bet, than it did coming off that Syracuse game.
Yeah, always does. And really proud of the guys for finding a way to finish. We didn't play our best football, I wouldn't say. There's a lot of want-to. Played really hard. Stanford did some really good stuff, especially, offense early, gave us some new looks. And then I think maybe a lot of excitement around the game, and old players coming back. And we were probably a little too excited at times, I think, but settled down and found a way to win in the end, which was key.
I have seen the too excited at times. My senior year, we were the same way going into it. Like that's big game. That's what happens in that game. Talk to me about the early start. You were talking about it. New looks. Troy Taylor's always innovative. I think you and I talked about it last week. I just saw stacks and stacks of binders that he's been creating plays since we were quarterbacks together at Cal. And so he gave you some new looks, and the offense couldn't get going early. Talk about that first half, and we'll separate it out that way.
Yeah, it really is the first quarter. They gave us some three. Well, they'd have the tight end in the back, and then they'd add the receiver, and then you got the quarterback. So you have up to 4 guys in the backfield that can change the numbers, and they've used motion and QB run game like we knew that they would. They converted some third downs on that first drive, 3rd and 4th, and then we go out. Couldn't get much going. Give them the ball. They got great field position again, and they go down and score it again. So, really neither. And then I thought the defense after that settled down, played much better. We moved the ball a bit more on offense, got a touchdown in the second quarter. Had a chance at the end of the half to get some more points, didn't get it done, but go in at 14-7 and get the ball to start the second. So I thought settled down a bit, but, I still, look, offensively, we could have certainly, there was a lot more yards to be had and points to be had in the game before we got to that fourth quarter.
Right. So third quarter's quiet, as you point out, but then you find the matchup that you're going to take advantage of. Your receivers in that fourth quarter were better than their corners.
Yeah.
We're able to create that matchup. Talk about finding that and then exploiting that.
Well, we thought going into the game that would be if they're going to play single high, that we have to win outside with the corners and receivers and nickel, and they did a good job of mixing some stuff up. But I thought the third quarter to me, there was a momentum swing that was so key because we go 3 and out to start the half, punt it, get a penalty, they get the ball in 4-down territory, they go down. They have a 3rd down conversion off a scramble on a screen where we cover it, and then the QB outruns us, and then they get down, and QB gets it to the 2 on a scramble again. Then they have the 4th and 2 trick play. So then they go up 21-7, and then they kick the ball off, and we fumble. Ball's on the 20-yard line, and we get a 3-down stop, and then they mishandle the field goal snap, and then we take that ball and go get a field goal. That, to me, was the swing right there. We have sudden change. Defense gets a stop, no blood, didn't get any points. We go down and get a field goal. That turned the momentum of the game. And then in the fourth, we were able to, get there's a couple of PIs, and we got the ball finally to the, on the perimeter more consistently, and we're able to take advantage of some of those one-on-ones.
Yeah, I mean, some key calls you pointed out, the pass interference that, they've been holding. Same dude, it was Nicholson, I believe. He'd held a couple times in a row, and we were talking about it. Justin and I were talking about it up in the booth. And then they finally got a couple of calls, a big one coming out, and that 98-yard drive starts with the PI. Talk about, when you get the ball, they punt down to the 2. Talk about what you were thinking with that drive and what the mood on the sideline was like.
Well, in all honesty, I was thinking the whole time, like, if we get the ball on the perimeter, we should win one-on-ones. And that's not a shot to anybody. We were having a hard time running it with consistency. kind of the boot game, sprint game was up and down, but just getting the ball out to the receivers in man-free coverage or quarters, like we have to be able to win out there. It's one-on-one. And I felt like probably the players did. Like, we just got to go out and execute. We can move the ball. It wasn't, because you sit there and you look at the iPads on the sidelines, like there's plenty of yards to be had. And let's go out and execute the play, and we can move the ball and score. And that's exactly what happened. The first one was probably the best, the deep ball with air on it that Fernando threw of the day. And it's a little bit underthrown, which is fine because underthrown ball is an offensive advantage in man-to-man like that. And they got a PI, and then we get it moved down. And, so 4th and 2, mesh route. Jack comes up huge again. And then we get the ball. They run a 0, and we beat the 0 coverage. And Fernando stands in there and throws the ball, and JB caught it. Really a hell of a catch, big-time catch. And a great throw.
Yeah.
The guy coming right through the A-gap there to plant him.
I was going to say both of those. A great throw because your guy's getting harassed, right? You're changing tempo, you're changing timing, you're changing position. And to be able to put that ball where your guys can make the catch, but then JB to get his hands up there and snag that after getting jostled. Like, that's super hard to do. And if people haven't tried it, it's super difficult. Talk about that connection and the ability to make that play in that moment.
Yeah, I mean, that was you consider it kind of a lower percentage throw and catch because the guy undercuts it. We got a guy running through right in Fernando's face. He puts enough air on it to get it over the DB. We're going to get the PI, but JB runs through the contact and then makes the catch, fingertip catch. I mean, that is a phenomenal play by the receiver, by the quarterback to win the game there or put us ahead and give us a chance to win the game. And so kudos to those guys, and is a great play. We had another great connection to both of them, earlier in the 4th, and phenomenal plays. And the other things that we'll look at on the tape is just, there's a lot of plays in there that aren't near as difficult that we can make that just not have to go 98 yards to win the game there.
Yeah, it's always a big deal, right? The big plays, you're like, yes, that was great, but how about if we get this 5-yard run? Or how about if we run the right route or make the right read and throw the hitch, something like that. So those are always the ones that they hide from the public, but football coaches always seem to pick them up on film.
You're exactly right, and that's what we did. But we do celebrate those game-changing plays that were made, and that was obviously one of them. There's a bunch of them in that game that really, kind of were the reason we won. But there's a ton of plays in that game in really every phase, special teams included, where we could have just played a little bit better football and give ourselves a much better chance to score earlier in the game and keep them out of the end zone.
I want to talk about some of kind of the individual performances in this game. Obviously, big game is made for heroes, right? That's what it's all about. But first, I want to know who teaches tackling to the equipment staff. Because that video was awesome. Some people at home that haven't seen it, there's a video out there. A fan tried to steal a helmet, and the EQ staff was on top of it. It came up with one of the best tackles I've ever seen.
Trevor Skogerbo. Here's the only issue I have with it, Mike, is when we teach chase tackling, is you secure the tackle with the left, and then you come down with a big right hand over the top to separate the ball carrier from the ball, or in this case, the helmet. That was the only critique. The effort was phenomenal, great angle. And I just spoke about this. It's, he's enforcing one of the beliefs we have as a program is to not steal stuff. And I think we need more Trevors out there, and there would be less people stealing things. So we appreciate the excitement after the game, but I thought it was great effort, great energy, and enforcing a program belief. If it's not yours, don't take it.
And I think that's a fantastic belief. And I agree with you 100%. More people who follow up on it would mean less people trying.
We need more Trevors in every organization.
100% agree with that. Fantastic tackle. And I'm going to say not coming over the top to punch the helmet out was actually a headsy play in the moment because you break your knuckles, right? And then you can't wrap. So right. I'm going to give him the pass on not trying to punch it out. I'm going to give it to him. I think it's smart. So there's that. And then your quarterback, of course, Fernando. We'll talk about his play first, but then after the game, his interview it's going to be an all-time classic.
Yeah, I mean, he's tough. He's so competitive. He made some great throws in the game. There was quite a few plays where he probably could have done a little bit better, a lot to coach off of.
Mm-hmm.
And I think one of Fernando's, one of the steps he's going to make is learning. He got such great energy, and he's so excited to play. He wants to play. He wants it so badly, which is that's what, as a coach, you couldn't ask for more than that. And then learning how to navigate and manage that, especially as a quarterback, as you know, Mike.
Yeah.
But if you saw the interview after the game, well, that was him during the game. And so a lot of times that can be such an advantage. And then there's times when we got to slow it down just a little to execute a play a little better. But man, there's just there's no questioning his part, his leadership abilities, how he feels about his team, and you can't put a price on that stuff.
Yeah, there's the guy who will run through the proverbial brick wall for you, right? That's the guy that the coaches always want. Fernando is that dude. He will do it with a steel back brick wall, and he'll at least try it for you. So, but his interview after the game was something else. If people at home have not seen that, you need to go watch that, and it'll tell you how your quarterback feels about his team and about what he's doing at Cal. And he loves this place, he loves his team, and he loves doing what he's doing. So that was pretty fun to see. Let's talk about the defensive side of the ball. Early on, you talked about it, the momentum shift when you get that big stop. Who are some guys that stood out to you on the defensive side of the ball?
I mean, Craig Woodson and Noel seems like every week.
Right.
David Reese had his best game, which was great. Great seeing David out there running and doing the things that he's shown. And then I thought there's just like some guys that played some roles really well. That Hunter and Liam at the other inside backer spot. We know Teddy is a fantastic player. He's going to make a lot of good plays. But Hunter and Liam, we pointed out in the team meeting Stanley McKenzie, who doesn't play a ton of reps, but on that sudden change after they get the fumbled kickoff, the first down they have a run play, and Stanley two gaps the center and gets off and makes the tackle for a 1.5 yard gain, and then Liam, the very next play, pulls the quarterback up. He has to get rid of it, throw it away. And then on third down, they throw it to the tight end, and Craig hustles, rakes it out, so there's 4th and 8, and they got to kick the field goal. And those three plays, they might look kind of, less exciting, but critical, So I just pointing those things out is important, because every play could literally be the difference in the game. And it was great to see those guys show up in those moments. So the other one's actually up.
So my point was going to be, that's exactly it. You don't know exactly which play is going to turn the game, and it may be just your assignment. You talk about Stanley two-gapping, right? You got to play both gaps. So you jack up the center, you play both gaps, and if you don't do it right and you give up a gap, now maybe that thing breaks, you get the first down, you don't get to stop. And you don't know that until you have that play and you look back in retrospect.
It's the next play. I was just talking about the hold that Lachlan Wilson had, how key that was, because it was not a great snap, and Lachlan got it up at 46-yard field goal. We made it because Lachlan made a phenomenal hold, and that's the difference in the game is 3 points.
Yeah, so those little plays are the huge difference, especially in games like this where we talk about the emotions run big. Guys have the opportunity to short circuit time and again in a game like this because everybody's close to red line, right? And even the guys who are 6-year guys are feeling that emotion. And so making that individual play in the moment is a huge one. In terms of your big games that you've now 4 in a row, this puts you in pretty rarefied airs for some of the coaches out there. We're talking about guys like Stub Allison, Pappy Waldorf, Jeff Tedford, Andy Smith, the pretty big names in Cal history. What does this game mean to you?
Well, the coach in me, Mike, goes back and said, we've got 4, but it should be, 6, because we had the field goal and PAT block. Mm-hmm. So, that, the coach in me goes that direction. But I have appreciation for the game. It's humbling, to be a part of it. I take the role I have very, very seriously in trying to prepare the team to go win that game because I know how much it means to everybody. But ultimately, it comes down to the players and executing on the field. And I thought their toughness showed up. I thought the grit showed up. And while we didn't play our best, cleanest game, we found a way to win, and that is that's meaningful, And you want to go out there and play your best every single down, every single week, and we do that. Boy, we should have scored here and stopped them there, and scored this time, and all of a sudden, man, we should have won that game by this margin, and didn't go that way, and it rarely does. But I don't know if the story would be better because of the way it went down is pretty special. So I'm proud of finding a way.
A 98-yard drive to win that thing is pretty epic. And, it never goes the way that you plan it because there's dudes getting scholarship checks and paychecks on the other side trying to make it not go the way you plan it, too.
That's right.
They have that sort of
That's a good team. That quarterback is a handful. Troy's a heck of a coach. Two receivers, Ellick and number 10. The tight end's a real good player. Their O-line's solid. Their interior, their defense, Tristan Sinclair's really good. 23 is really good. Tobin Phillips really good. So, yeah, I mean, they're a legit team that's well coached. So, yeah, I give them a lot of credit.
Yeah. So it still feels weird to me that the big game isn't the last game of the regular season, but it hasn't been for a while. So let's talk about SMU coming up. New opponent. When you look at them on film, I look down the roster and I look at these guys on film. I'm like, whoo, these guys, A, they're fast, B, they're athletic, C, they play with high tempo on offense, and they play angry on defense. The couple of rush guys on the edge are pretty impressive. So talk to me about what you see on film.
Yeah, probably one of the top two most physically talented teams we've seen. Offense is tempo. The running back is an excellent player. I mean, elite player. Receivers are really good. They block really well. The quarterback is a tough guy to defend because he can throw. He's very efficient and he runs. Defense up front. I mean, it's like them and Miami are the best two fronts we've seen, and we've seen some excellent fronts. Mm-hmm. Auburn and Florida State and some of these other groups, Pittsburgh. I mean, but these guys, along with Miami, they're elite defensive front, very active, do a lot in the back end, different coverages, and they have their special teams, their return game. 13's an elite returner on punts, and then they use the running back and 13 in the kickoff, so they have a big play capability. The speed of the team is as good as anybody we've seen.
Yeah, they're when you watch them on film, it's just a super athletic team, and they're impressive. Going down to their place, what do you expect?
Expect them to be highly motivated, so we're going to need to match the intensity on the road. Both teams got a lot to play for. Obviously, they're in the championship game. We know what kind of team they are. Our guys are very prideful. We've had a number of close games that haven't quite gone our way, and I know our guys are going to be excited to play a team of that caliber. And so they obviously got our full attention, from, Monday, the start of our Monday meeting at 9 o'clock in the morning. Our guys have been on it, and a lot of guys were in here on Sunday watching them. So they'll be excited to go out and compete against these guys.
Just topically, when you watch them, does it remind you of that Chip Kelly style offense, moving you side to side, and then it's trying to attack you vertically, and with a quarterback who can move and kind of get himself out of pressures and a number of different guys?
Yeah, a lot of these guys have scored for them. Different guys. The running back is an elite player. Quarterback is very difficult to defend. They've scored since he became the starter. They've basically scored 45 a game, 60, 41. A couple that were in the 30s. They had one game where maybe a couple turnovers, but other than that, I mean, they scored, and then their front on defense is elite. They've done a fantastic job of recruiting and some transfers that are high-level players, and you can see the difference in the explosiveness and the speed and the jump their team took from last year to this year.
Yeah, you talk about the transfers. I went down there. My one of my former receivers, Scott Natty, works down there. I saw him in the spring. He's like, "Well, that dude's from Georgia. That dude's from Alabama. That dude's from Miami. That dude's from Clemson." Like he's just going down the line of these guys that are transferring in. I'm thinking, whew, that's tough to compete with when you're bringing really good football players from other places in. And so, what are your keys this game? What do you guys have to do in this game?
Well, defensively, it's first thing you got to do is get lined up, and obviously tackling the running back, getting guys. I think tackling in the run game, the perimeter game when the ball gets spread out to the perimeter, and then we've got to find when the quarterback does hold the ball, if we can get him. You got the first play. If you can defend the first part of the play, all right, the second part of the play when the quarterback is going to start to create things is going to be key. Offensively, it's efficiency. We got to go forward. There's going to be some runs, that might not be the prettiest, but we got to, let's get 3-4 yards and get to 2nd and 6 and convert some 3rd and potentially 4th downs. It's going to be all about efficiency. And then when we have an opportunity to get it down the field, that we're going to have to connect.
Yeah, it's going forward is key, right? You get behind the chains with these guys and let them feed, you're in trouble.
Yeah.
So, well, appreciate you coming on today, Coach. Congratulations on that big game win. Always awesome. It's good to be a Bear this week. So we appreciate it, and we'll see you on Thanksgiving for the flight. But looking forward to watching this game down in Texas.
All right. Thanks a lot, Mike. Go Bears.
That was Travers Family head football coach Justin Wilcox, and as you can see, big game means something to him too. But to get 4 wins in a row in a big game puts him in some rarefied air in terms of coaches in Cal's history. So that accomplishment alone, to win 4 big games in a row, buys you a lot of grace as a head coach. I guarantee you that at Cal. Huge win for the Bears. They have the Axe this week, SMU, coming up, and you heard Coach Wilcox talk about it. SMU has some talent in their offense, on that defensive line, on their offensive line. And I went down there and watched them in spring ball, and that team can execute. They weren't nearly the team then that they are now. A couple of guys, Coach talked about it, that we're going to talk about. The running back, Brashard Smith, transfer from Miami. He was a receiver at Miami. He was not a running back down there. And SMU's coach said, look, we're going to bring you in. We don't have a receiver spot, but we'd like you to play running back. And I got to tell you, he is the best running back that we have seen on film this year for an opponent. He reminds me of Eric Bieniemy, the way he hits the line and cuts and makes a move on you. Seems to have just the right amount of patience, but then his explosiveness and his twitch and his ability to get vertical on you in a hurry. He's a super impressive dude. He's already got 1,089 yards, and he can tote the rock. It helps that he has a great offensive line in front of him. It helps that SMU in their offense runs a lot of horizontal stuff, fly sweep, receiver screens to the outside. They get defenses moving side to side. They run you all over the field. And then they have guys that can block the receivers out front. They have the big guys that can block inside that are trying to spring their teammates for those extra yards. And so they are a load to deal with on offense in that horizontal running game, fly sweeps, in the horizontal screen game in terms of the bubbles, and in terms of their downhill, zone and gap running scheme that you have to handle on defense if you're going to handle SMU. So impressive to watch. Really good. Brashard Smith, really good. Their quarterback, Kevin Jennings, insane talent. As he moves, he looks like Lamar Jackson. He made a dude from Boston College in one of the games that I watched miss in a phone booth. Just juked him, got out of his way. The guy almost fell flat on his face. He's just super twitchy, super athletic. But unlike a lot of those quarterbacks, he can throw really efficiently. He has accurate. He has touch. He can drive the ball in there. He reads defense as well. And so he does everything you hope for in a quarterback. I think he's like a 66% passer. Really, really good football player, huge arm talent, and crazy twitchy. So he's going to be a load. They're going to have to try to figure out how to handle him as well. Wide receiver, Keyshawn Smith, also very good one-on-one guy. If you try to man him up, he has the skills to beat you, kind of a jitterbug, beat you kind of guy. And on the other side, really, really fast wide receiver in Hudson, number 8. He's a leader in total catches at 29. He's just a fast dude. So he'll shake you at the line of scrimmage, try to run the go routes, but he can get deep on you in a hurry. And then Daniels, number 13, is their leader in yards, and he makes the big catch, the back shoulder catches. They throw him fade routes. They kind of do everything with him out there as well, plus a bunch of those receiver screens to the outside. They are a group that you're going to have to handle to try to figure out. And you can't solo them up all the time because they have the talent and the speed to beat you. You can't zone them off all the time because they run the ball extremely well. And so it makes it really, really tough as an offense. They do all those things that stretch you as a defense. And that's what you're trying to develop as an offense. When I talk about on the air, you have to be able to run the football. That's why. If I can run the football, now I stretch you as a defense. Do I commit to the box? And do I put guys in there and tackle the run? Or do I commit to doubling receivers on the outside and helping with safety help and then give up the box? And so if you can do it all, it gets you in trouble in a hurry on defense because they are stretching you and leveraging you in ways that you do not want to be leveraged. And so SMU does that. They do it extremely well. On defense, they play a bunch of zone. But within that zone, they'll pattern match sometimes when guys come through, so it kind of turns into man. But they also play a lot. They also bring, I should say, edge pressure. Their 2 edge dudes can absolutely get after it. They rush the passer, number 58, Smith, as a defensive end, is a dude who gets after it. He's talented. I think he has 7 sacks this year. Really good football player. They got another dude on the other side from him, single digit, who's also really an outstanding edge rusher. So between the 2 edge guys, they have 13 sacks total. Their linebackers are good. They roam. They tackle. It's a good job. They have a nice 3 technique inside, which your defensive tackle, kind of control that line of scrimmage, handles, eats up blockers. And so he does a nice job there. And they're good in that front 7. Secondary's okay. They're decent. But because they have such a good rush, it makes those guys look better. And so Cal's offense has their work cut out for them, trying to figure out a way to take advantage of what SMU does. They got to get the ball out of Fernando's hands in a hurry. Screens, spacing in this game. And when I say spacing, is what we used to call hitches. But spacing in this game, finding a way to get that ball out quick to guys sitting down, pick up 4, 5, 6, 7 yards per catch, and just make that defensive line run side to side, make them chase in pursuit, make them do things that they don't want to do rather than keeping you back there holding the ball where they have a chance to get home. When you take some shots, you have to take shots in every game or else they take away the underneath stuff. But be judicious about it. Take advantage of the things that you have, or I should say take the things that you have, and then take advantage of the things that they give you. And so that's got to be the game plan going in. Hold on to the football. Don't turn it over. Both those things are super key. By the way, if you hadn't had a chance yet, my book, Everyday Great, is out. It has been a bestseller for 4 weeks now. I appreciate all of those of you who have bought it. And if you have bought it and you loved it, please give me a review on Amazon. That helps the book. It helps people decide whether to buy the book or not. And so if you could do that, I'd appreciate it. If you haven't bought it yet, take a shot at it for Thanksgiving. Or it's a great Christmas present as well. Anyway, I appreciate you guys watching. It's great to have the Axe staying at home in Berkeley. I look forward to seeing this SMU game. Good football team. Look forward to calling another game from a new stadium this year. And former Cal wide receiver Scott Natty is actually down there on the coaching staff at SMU. So looking forward to seeing Snatty as well. But good to talk to you. I hope you and your family have a fantastic Thanksgiving. Hope you enjoy the turkey, enjoy the football. And hopefully the Bears can come home with a win this week, coming home from Dallas. It's been an interesting season. A lot of new things, a lot of new places, a lot of new teams that we had to figure out this year. But we can win it. Obviously, we're bowl eligible now, but we can win it on a high note by being the spoilers to SMU here and getting the win on the road to finish the season. For Bear Insider and Ultimate Insider Podcast, I am Mike Pawlawski. Thank you for watching. And as always, go Bears.